Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in the first session of the day. I'm excited to be here and to have two of my esteemed colleagues share in this stage and presentation with you as we talk about building AI responsibly with a governance, risk, and compliance strategy. I'm Dia Nguyen, and I'm one of the responsible AI leads here at AWS. This is a topic that is near and dear to me. Responsible AI, I think, is of critical importance, especially as we continue to see the ways in which AI is being used every day. And sometimes we don't realize how much it's being used, but certainly every system, so many of the technologies and across all of the industries, AI is advancing in ways and making a difference in terms of the way in which we live, work, consume information, engage, and even the people we interact with, as well as what we know. So we'll talk a little bit briefly about where we are today. We'll go into what is AWS's Responsible AI Strategy and how that drives the work that we're doing as far as governance, risk, and compliance, and being able to manage the services that we develop as well as support our customers. We'll talk a little bit about the framework and the structure that we use in order to be able to evaluate and build our services. And then we'll land this plane with Anthropic and Larkin sharing with us the way in which they are building their constitutional AI approach and how that makes for a great solution for our customers working alongside of us. Now, I already started off a little bit sharing the ways in which AI is being used, right? I said every industry, nearly every industry is leveraging AI in some way, shape, or fashion, whether that is to be able to gain operational efficiencies, to do things faster, to be able to innovate and create new products, and to solve some of the previously unattainable challenges. We're seeing AI being used, and in the last couple of years, as a result of generative AI and being placed in the hands of everyone, through a public application, we now are seeing that actually be the technology that is driving the interest and adoption of customers. They're estimating that the AI industry is going to add $15.7 trillion to the global economy by the year 2030. Advancements and investments in AI has been reaching exponential amounts. And so that is only indicative of the interest that people have in the ways in which they are looking to be able to innovate. But of course, as we know, there's also the potential for risks and challenges as we look to adopt generative AI. And so that means that we have to be thinking about the ways in which we address those and how we build. Now, some of those risks are highlighted here. And I just wanted to highlight just for a moment because there are risks with AI broadly, and we have been talking about those in the past years, things around fairness and transparency and explainability. But we also have these elevated risks when we think about AI in the when we think about this in the context of generative AI. Some of the challenges are now not trivial. Because generative AI is sort of expanding our scope and increasing greater opportunity, but with that as well challenges. So looking at things like toxicity and the possibility of generating content that could be offensive or its ability to hallucinate, the considerations that we now have to put into place to think about intellectual property and who owns what content and copyright, and then questions of like the downstream impact and even some cases unintended consequences because we haven't really thought through or considered in our advancement or adoption of the technology what that means longer term. These considerations become even more important or these concerns become even more important when we start to think about the ways in which AI is becoming more proliferated throughout applications. So we might find that the challenges or the stakes are less risky when we're talking about a chatbot, a general purpose chatbot that may be just providing responses, but those considerations become much more impactful when it has the ability to make decisions about what this means for services or some other life-altering consideration. Now, when we think about this, it means that we have to be much more conscious and aware of the way in which we're building our systems. Those risks that we're not managing and addressing some of those risks and challenges and taking the intentional action to be able to unpack those and put in the right kind of guardrails or response, then there are impacts to companies. Now, I highlight these because I think they kind of consolidate the kind of challenges that an organization might have if they're not properly allocating and addressing those areas of risk. So reputational damage. We know that customer trust lost is not easily regained, right? And this can cause reputational harm, especially if there is some public exposure to your application not functioning properly or having an unintended consequence of harm to your customers or some other stakeholder. That, of course, is going to affect your revenue potential and the ability to be able to, I lost something here. The ability to be able to realize the business benefit that you intend with the technology. And then, of course, there is regulatory backlash. And I remember when I started working with customers and our focus on responsible AI a few years ago, we certainly didn't have this consideration of regulatory concern. There were organizations thinking about principles and starting to identify some best practices, but it was the early stages in conversation about regulation. Now we have things like the EU AI Act and other standards that are being proposed. And in the US, I think I heard some number of over 200 potential regulation or laws that had some consideration for how they would manage or govern AI being introduced this year alone. So now this question of regulatory backlash is much more of a concern, right? What do we do, or how do we ensure that we are addressing and meeting the needs of regulation so that we don't have, or there isn't a negative implication to the customer or the company? And then, of course, you have then like what will be criminal consequence. And in some cases, this is the extreme, but there could be the potential for criminal consequence. All of these are highlighting the considerations or the impact that businesses have if they don't take the kind of care and concern around how we're not only designing and building, training, and developing, but I would also say, and deploying these systems into the wild. So that was the introduction, just to be able to ground us in what has been our company's North Star in terms of that is driving the way in which we've designed our responsible AI strategy. That we want to make sure that any technological advancement is respecting the rule of law, human rights, and dignity, and our shared values of inclusiveness, privacy, and fairness. And this has been the grounding for our responsible AI strategy that I'll speak to just for a few moments. So this strategy is a 4-part strategy. I told you that North Star is our underpinning for that. And it starts first with our intention to be people-centered, our people-centered focusing, understanding that we are obsessed about our customers, and our customers are people, and that we need to be building technology and services in a way that are going to meet the needs of people broadly. And that also starts with, first, education, and being able to educate and equip the next generation of diverse technologists, scientists, data scientists, AI engineers that are going to be building this technology. It also means that we're investing in education and advocacy in ways to ensure that people understand the value and importance of responsible AI and our commitment to developing in that way. This kind of education finds itself in things like our AI ML scholarship program, where we've been investing in educational opportunities, in particular to those that are typically underserved and underrepresented, as well as other educational programs like our MLU, Machine Learning University, that's providing free education and opportunity to those to learn about machine learning and AI. And then we had this launched last year or the year before, AI Ready, which was our initiative to train 29 million individuals in AI by the year 2025. The next part is to make sure that we're integrating responsible AI into the entire machine learning lifecycle. This is not a set of activities or best practices that should be resigned to just a data scientist or the technologist alone, but thinking about responsible AI being integrated into every area of our lifecycle, so that in our decision making, when we think about this from a product management perspective, the way in which we're curating data, et cetera, that responsible AI is being built in. And you'll hear a little bit more about the kind of dimensions and sort of consideration that we take when Sai comes up to talk about like what that looks like in terms of our development and building. And then there's transforming responsible AI from theory to practice. And this essentially is how we operationalize best practices around responsible AI and assist our customers in doing so with resources and tools and technology in order to be able to develop. And that might look like things like SageMaker Clarify that you might have heard about that helps us to be able to detect for bias and provide explainability. Or model evaluation in Bedrock that allows you to be able to look at different dimensions around responsible AI, like accuracy and fairness, and be able to evaluate models to make determinations about which one would be the best for your specific use case. And then we have advancing the science and responsible AI. And this is important because responsible AI is still a very nascent field. There's a lot that we don't know, and certainly with the ways in which AI is advancing at such a rapid pace, it also means that we need to be continuing in terms of the research and exploration to be able to find new ways in which we address some of those risks and considerations. And so that might look like our investment in the National Science Foundation, $20 million in terms of our fairness research and other partnerships that help us to continue to advance and partner with bodies that are creating standards and be able to take that learning and understanding and that research insights into the way in which we're developing our services, but also into the best practices that we get to share with our customers. Now, my part of the conversation was just an introduction, just to ground you all in the way in which we're thinking about responsible AI and the strategy and our approach that is underpinning the work that we do. And now I'm going to invite to the stage Sai to be able to share with you what that looks like in practice and how we use responsible AI dimensions in order to be able to structure what is governance, risk, and compliance understanding. And I would dare say we go beyond that because, again, at the beginning, we didn't have these kinds of regulatory considerations. So our responsible AI approach was foundational into ensuring that we can build safe, inclusive, and responsible systems.
Thank you, Dia. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to start with explaining why responsible AI is important to me. Some time ago, I had to renew my passport. And following the instructions on the photos, I made sure that my mouth was closed. I didn't have my glasses. I didn't have anything on my head. But the photo processing system rejected my photo. And it had to do with the shape of my mouth. And I know that there are others out there that have also experienced some of the things with their facial features and having their photos rejected. So this was an unintended consequence of a deployed system. So we're at Amazon taking an intentional and strategic approach to leveraging AI to drive business outcomes. And our goal was to uncover areas of unintended impact and to mitigate risks. So in order to mitigate these risks, there are 4 areas to focus on. First, you need to set the right culture. You need to align your business and your technology leaders to drive change from the very top. And that also needs to be in alignment with your organizational values. Next, you need to build the right organization and process models to become a data-driven organization. For example, you need to provide the right training resources, you need to promote data literacy, and you need an organizational construct that promotes innovation and agility. And finally, technology. Here's where you empower your builders with the right tools so that they can create end-to-end data journey and solve for the highest value business cases. So let's talk about the considerations of responsible AI. And you may find that these are very similar to those that are in your own organization. I'll start with controllability. This is a principle that ensures that humans guide and ultimately control the outputs of generative AI. Users should be able to define the parameters, provide the prompts, and stop the generation of content if need be. An example of this would be a tool that creates marketing copy. It allows users to specify the target audience, the desired tone, and the key message, and to control the direction of any content. Privacy and security. A generative AI system should handle data responsibly. Now, this includes protecting user privacy by anonymizing data when possible and by having strong security measures to prevent unauthorized access to sensitive information. An example here would be a generative AI tool that creates synthetic medical data for research by anonymizing patient information before using it to train the model. Next, safety. Generative AI shouldn't create harmful outputs. So this includes avoiding generating content that is harmful or misleading. And another issue here is toxicity. Now, toxicity is explained as a foundation model that has hateful or threatening or harmful or assaulting or demeaning to an individual, a group of individuals, or even to society. So a foundation model is considered safe when the output excludes information that could negatively impact individuals. An example here is a system to generate social media posts. It has filters to prevent creating content that might have hateful or bullying topics. Next, let's talk about fairness. Generative AI models shouldn't perpetuate biases or discrimination that's present in the training data. It's crucial to ensure that fair and unbiased results can go across all demographics. So a system here could be a public awareness campaign about child abuse. The system should be trained on data sets that represent various ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds, and family structures to ensure that the message resonates with all communities. Next, veracity and robustness. Generative AI outputs should be truthful, accurate, and not easily manipulated. The system should be able to distinguish between factual information and creative fiction and avoid generating misleading content. An example here is a system that generates news articles and flags outputs that are not supported by factual evidence and therefore requires human verification before publishing. Next, we have explainability. Now, users should understand, at least at a high level, how generative AI is arriving at its outputs. This can help users assess the reliability and potential biases of the generated content. An example could be a system that analyzes trends in a set of cases. The system should be able to explain the reasoning behind its findings and to allow for human experts to interpret the data. Next is transparency. The development and deployment of generative AI systems should be transparent. Users should be able to be aware of the limitations of the technology and any potential risks involved. So an example could be a chatbot powered by AI to answer general child care questions from parents. The system should clearly disclose its use of AI and provide information about its capabilities and its limitations. And lastly, governance. Clear guidelines and frameworks are needed to ensure responsible development and use of generative AI systems. And this can involve industry standards, government regulations, and ethical codes. An example here could be a research institution that establishes an ethics board to review generative AI projects and to ensure that they align with their institution's generative AI principles. Now, we at Amazon, we have well over 200 different services across our platforms. And the reason is we want to give all of you the opportunity to take what you need and create exactly what you're looking for. These are some of the systems we have to use responsible AI, and I'm going to talk about a few of them. I'm going to talk about Amazon Bedrock first. So we have something called model evaluation on Amazon Bedrock, and this allows you to evaluate, compare, and select the best foundation models for your specific use cases. And you can base it on customized metrics, such as accuracy and safety. You can also use model evaluation in Amazon SageMaker Clarify. Now, we have guardrails in Amazon Bedrock that you can implement and tailor to your applications and align them with your AI, responsible AI policies. And these guardrails lets you specify topics to be avoided and then automatically detects and prevents queries and responses that fall into those restricted categories. Within Amazon SageMaker Clarify, you can also mitigate bias by detecting potential bias, and you can provide the transparency to your stakeholders, informing them of making any decisions, and track whether a model is performing as expected. Amazon SageMaker Model Monitor. This automatically detects and alerts you to inaccurate predictions from deployed models. And with Amazon Augmented AI, you can implement human review of machine learning predictions when you need to have human oversight. And lastly, machine learning governance from Amazon SageMaker. This is purpose-built tools for improving governance of your machine learning projects by giving you control and visibility over your machine learning models. You can easily capture and share model information and stay informed on model behavior, such as bias, all in one place. And these services also include model choices from premier partners such as Anthropic. Now, the same comprehensive monitoring and logging that you are used to with other Amazon services is also available with Bedrock. You can use CloudWatch to build dashboards and prepare for any audit purposes. You can use CloudTrail to monitor and troubleshoot any API activity. And you can store all your requests, responses, and metadata in Amazon S3 or CloudWatch logs. Now, I would like to turn over to Larkin Ryder, who's head of compliance at Anthropic. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you. I'm glad to be here today. I'm Larkin Ryder. I work for Anthropic. I get to explain to you how we do our part in making sure AI safety and security are part of the governance that you're bringing to your implementations of AI for your organization. We already heard some discussions from Dia and quite a bit from Sai about various governance capabilities that are being made available to you by AWS. But if the underlying model itself has safety and security concerns, how do you address those? Like there is a lot you can do on your side with trying to add on safety after the fact. But what if we could build safety into the model itself? I want to talk about that. I know we would normally look to government and regulation, and again, that was discussed a bit by the prior presenters, and that's very important. And we are seeing things like the EU AI Act and various White House executive orders. We have the option ourselves of implementing standards like ISO 42001, which is a management system for AI. And I'll certainly encourage everyone to take a look at that. But these capabilities are increasing at a dramatic rate. I don't think we've seen scaling of capability in any technology at a rate equivalent to what we're seeing with AI. And with that in mind, can we wait for standards and regulation, or do we need to do something now? Well, the opinion of the people who founded Anthropic is that we need to be alarmingly proactive about this. The founders of Anthropic started as employees at OpenAI. They helped build GPT-2 and GPT-3. And they were themselves concerned about the economic, social, and geopolitical risk that AI posed. And they were interested in building a company that would focus on AI safety research, that would help drive policy that was intended to help manage the risks associated with AI safety, and then also to develop some of the first-rate models that are available today in the world that took all of the policy and safety considerations into account as they were being built. So the result of this effort is Claude 3. I should say this is the most recent result of this effort because we're going to continue building these models and increasing their safety. Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku are the 3 versions of Claude that are currently available today. If you want to play around with Claude, you can go to claude.ai and give it a try. I encourage you to do that. Opus is the most capable model available in the world today, according to many benchmarks. You can read more about the status of our benchmarks and evaluations by visiting anthropic.com. And that information should, I hope, convince you that we have done both everything we can do today around safety, but also not compromised at all on the capability of the model against these standard benchmarks. These 3 different models are provided to you so that you can pick the one that best suits your business case. If you need the smartest, most capable AI model today, that is Opus. Conversely, if you need something that is more efficient, cost-wise, or quicker to respond, you would want Haiku. Sonnet is kind of the happy medium in between those 2. Foundational to the work that we are doing at Anthropic is our research. A large percentage of the population of employees at Anthropic are actually AI researchers, and they're not just looking to build the best model in the world, they're looking to build the safest model in the world. And we are, for that reason, the leader today in AI safety. Making models safe is not something you can do in ignorance. It is something you have to do with a great deal of understanding over how the models work. We have to understand how the model thinks, how it reasons, so that we can steer the model and align it to our human values. Dia talked about this earlier in her presentation and mentioned ethics. There are certain standards we have for each other, and we want our AI models, which are, in many ways, they're just the sum of all human understanding and conversation. Those can be good conversations, those can be bad conversations. But in order to make our product helpful, harmless, and honest, we have to be able to steer it to the better parts of human nature. That is what our research is committed to do. We're not just doing this for ourselves, we're doing this for everyone who is building an AI model. And for that reason, the research that we have done and that we have used to drive our own work is publicly available, and most of it can be accessed in extensive, detailed scientific form or in summary form via our blog posts at the anthropic.com website. We are leading in the ability to steer models and to interpret them. So this has some great benefits for you as people who would like to use AI in your enterprise. This means that you can deploy Claude as a model that is, in fact, realizing the benefit of all of this AI research. In fact, we are very proud of the work we've done to mitigate jailbreaks. So jailbreak is a particular kind of security violation for an AI model wherein a model that has been trained to not expose certain harmful information is bypassed by a malicious actor. That malicious actor could have a variety of motivations. They may want to use your model to support a misinformation campaign to steer an election in a particular direction. They may want to use the information to build a weapon, chemical, biological, nuclear. And AI certainly has the information that would allow them to do that. They may want to produce illegal content like CSAM. There may simply be bias in the model, which would harm users. That great personal example that Sai gave us, that's something that we worry about every day. We also worry about the risk the model itself poses. We work to understand its capability for autonomous replication. If we stand up our model on a network where there are vulnerable systems, can the model find those vulnerabilities, develop a means to exploit those vulnerabilities, and then replicate itself? Certainly the advances that an AI model can bring human actors in whatever their cybersecurity goals are something of sincere concern for me as someone who's been a security professional for 20 years. But then the model itself taking advantage of weaknesses in cybersecurity to achieve its own ends, that is the doomsday scenario that we are working every day to avoid. Please, again, visit online to understand what our models can do and how we work to evaluate them and keep them secure. You'll find data like the data shown in this slide here. Our model is, by some measures, 10 times more resistant to the kinds of jailbreaks that expose these capabilities to bad actors and bring these AI safety concerns into reality in the world. All right, so how do we do this? Well, one of the key techniques that we have pioneered, and this is, again, something that was alluded to by Dia and Sai, is our constitutional AI system. So constitutional AI is a data set that was developed to automate and scale the training of AI. So large language models have been around for decades. And the way that they have been improved in capability over time is to ingest more data and become bigger. Well, when something becomes bigger, it takes even more fine-tuning of that model to achieve the goals that it is and realize the capabilities that it's being designed for. A lot of the feedback for LLMs historically has been through user interaction, repetitive user interaction, to teach the model what good looks like and what bad looks like. Boost up the parts of the model that are good responses, reduce the pathways that are bad, that lead to an undesirable outcome or an incorrect result. But if you always do that with humans, you very much slow down your ability to produce a model with top-tier capability. And we knew at Anthropic that we had to be producing not only the most capable models, but at a rate that kept up with businesses' needs and expectations from society. So we designed and pioneered constitutional AI. We used a corpus of information from human experience based on documents like the UN Declaration on Human Rights to create a feedback system that focused on our values, our ethics, our needs for safety and security as humans on this planet. All right, so what has the result of that been for our customers? Well, there have been some very successful outcomes as a result of our ability to put an incredibly capable but incredibly safe model out into the world. Pfizer is an example of a customer that we have supported. They are able to take lab reports from a single individual and compare the data in those reports to the entire corpus of their oncology database and come to assessments and conclusions much, much more quickly, going from months of analysis down to days of analysis. And when you're talking about your health, don't you want to start treatment as soon as possible? Lonely Planet uses our model to design custom itineraries. They have feedback from customers collected across millions of trips, millions of excursions and experiences. I can enter my preferences. The system can learn a little bit about what I like to do when I'm on vacation, and it can provide a custom itinerary for me when I'm traveling, as I did to get here from San Francisco, and as I hope to do when I go out and visit Sai in New Zealand very soon. Looking forward to that. They've also been able to help DoorDashers be more efficient. So this is a case where Claude is just being used to help respond to Dasher customer service inquiry requests. So the Dashers get out there, they're in the field, they run into a problem, they're right in the middle of something, they've got hot food with them probably, my hot food, I want it to get to me as quickly as possible. If they can resolve their inquiry as quickly as they can get back to the business of raising customer satisfaction and earning more income. They have seen a 50% reduction in response latency because of their use of the Claude 3 Haiku model. All right, so by this point, I hope I've convinced you that Anthropic is the leading AI safety researcher and is creating the most secure and safe models that are available to incorporate into your governance structure. But more than that, the way we deliver the model in partnership with AWS solves one of your biggest governance problems, which is your subprocessors. You can use Bedrock to host your model in your current AWS operating environment. So without adding Anthropic as a subprocessor, without having to worry about your data transiting our networks and what that means for the diligence that your security team has to do over something as complex as an AI company, you can add the AI capabilities that Claude has available right now today to your operating environment without doing all of those things. That is why this partnership between Anthropic and AWS is so strategic and important for your governance. I know that sounds like a great outcome, but yes, it is going to be a journey to get there. It's a journey, however, that we're going to help you on every step of the way. We're going to start out by providing you with resources that will help you optimize your use of Claude with effective prompting to get to the best performance. We will help you do seamless integration with your existing data so that the content you're feeding into Claude gets the best output for the use cases that you've designed it for. We can help you with advanced retrieval agents, and we can make sure you have a clear roadmap for deploying AI at scale using Amazon Bedrock. All right. And that is it at this point for this session. I really appreciate your attention and the opportunity to talk to you today about AI safety, which is so core to the mission that we have at Anthropic. If you would please take a moment before the end of the session and complete the survey in the mobile app. We really would like to have your feedback. We want to know what you enjoyed, what we can do more of in the future. We will be available outside the room for questions. I think we have a bit of time, so I'm happy to take those, but we are going to return the mics and clear the stage. Thank you.